What's going on YouTube? So the Corolla nameplate is one of the most recognizable names in the entire auto world. So it was certainly a big deal a few years ago when it spawned a crossover variant, the Corolla Cross. Well, now this model is undergoing some major changes for 2026, including new exterior design, interior improvements, better tech, and more. So is this Mini-RAV4 the affordable SUV that you should put in your driveway? Well, let's go ahead and find out. All right, let's kick things off with a spec dump. So under the hood of the Corolla Cross for 2026, you'll find two different powertrains. This is the hybrid version, so it's a 2-liter 4-cylinder with electric componentry, making 196 horsepower. It's paired to standard all-wheel drive and an eCVT, and our combined fuel economy is an impressive 42 mpg.
Now, the base price of the Corolla Cross this year is $25,000, and if you're looking to buy one or any new vehicle, we'd encourage you to go to carconfections.com/newcarquotes to get the best price.
But now let's go ahead and close up the hood so we can take a look at all the changes that Toyota made to the exterior as well as the inside. So jumping in with the exterior design, you'll notice right off the bat, we've got a pretty distinct new look for the 2026 Corolla Cross. And one of the things that Toyota is doing and has been doing is giving you distinct designs depending on if you choose the traditional gas powertrain or if you choose the hybrid powertrain. So what we're looking at right now is the hybrid powertrain. And this will come in only the sport grades. So we've got the fully loaded XSE, meaning that up here in the front, the distinct look is going to be a lot sportier than what you get in the traditional gas model. You have a lot of body color going across the front. It actually looks a lot like the Camry that we have in the overall design and execution. Again, if you go for one of the gas-powered ones, that's going to give you a little bit more of a boxy and rugged design in the front. Also new for 2026, we've got a standard smoked Toyota badge on the hybrid versions, a little bit of a grille accent at the top, and that leads us into our lighting. So Toyota has upgraded the lighting this year. We have standard bi-LED projector headlights on every single Corolla Cross. If you get the XSE or the XLE, you get the more premium elements, which include your LED daytime running light and turn signal indicator. Plus, the X trims also get LED fog lights down here at the bottom. Moving on to the wheels, you have a lot of different choices from 17 and 18-inch alloys depending on which trim you choose. We've got some updated designs for 2026 as well. Here on the XSE, we've got the full gloss black multi-spoke wheel, which I think looks quite nice overall. We also have a little bit of cladding that's going to go around the wheel surrounds to kind of define this SUV, make it look a little bit tougher. And up here at the top, of course, we've got the gloss black finish for the mirrors. You're going to have standard heating on all trims. If you want blind spot monitoring, you will need to choose the SE or the LE trims and above, respectively.
Now at the side, the Corolla Cross comes in at 176 inches in length, which is about 6 inches shorter than the all-new RAV4 that is coming up. And as far as design touches, you will see that we have a little bit of chrome up here in the top, darkened window surrounds in the bottom, and then we also have roof rails. Now speaking of up here at the top, we obviously have the two-tone roof. That's a really nice option here in the subcompact segment to add that extra style. That's available on your hybrid SE and XSE grades. Also new to the Corolla Cross lineup is this Calvary blue paint color. I think it looks really fantastic and stands out in this segment. Now, heading around to the rear of this vehicle, we have a pretty classy look. They didn't do as much to the rear design as what they did in the front, so it's mostly the same for 2026. We have a little bit of a spoiler up here at the top, a rear window wiper, blacked out Toyota branding as well as our XSE branding. And then taking a look at our taillights, these are going to be partially LED taillights. That's now standard equipment on every single Corolla Cross. That's going to include the LED brake light, the LED turn signal indicator, and then you do have an incandescent reverse light through there. As we drop down to the lower fascia, this is all going to be finished in a matte black plastic. The tow rating for this vehicle comes in at 1,500 pounds. Now, one of my favorite things about the Corolla Cross is that you get all of your active safety features as standard equipment, regardless of what trim level you select. That will even include adaptive cruise control. Now, we have a really updated interior as well when it comes to features and new technology, so let's dive into that. But first, if you're new here, we're brothers and we've been reviewing cars since we were 12
and 16. We started young, and since then we've reviewed over 2,000 cars at every price point.
No matter what you're looking for, from sound level readings to cargo measurements, we'd love for you to subscribe to be a part of our Car Confections family.
Let's learn a lot and have some fun with all the latest cars. All right, now to the inside. First, we'll take a look at the key fob. We actually have it in a little bit of the leather case here, but it's Toyota's typical key fob design. You have smart entry on all but the base L for the Corolla Cross 2026. And that means for most models, you're just going to walk up to the vehicle, grab behind that handle there, and that will unlock the door with a sensor. Now, let's take a look at the inside. If you're a sharp-eyed viewer, or maybe you've had previous experience with a Corolla Cross, you'll notice right away some of the big improvements to the interior. But before we get into the individual details, let's start by talking about the seats as always. So, on both gas and hybrid models, your low and mid trims will come with cloth seating. However, when you get to the X models, that will give you the soft tex leatherette. Here with the hybrid, you've got two choices, black completely or black with the blue accents. As you can see, we've got the blue accents today. These seats are pretty nice. They really remind me strongly of the ones you get in the RAV4, and they're pretty comfortable as well. The X trims also have power adjustment for the seats themselves, including a two-way lumbar support. Just be aware there's no memory seats offered on any of the trims, no matter what. And let's climb on inside. Now as I close up the door and we look at the rest of the cabin materials, I remind you guys this is the loaded XSE, so we have the nicest cabin that the Corolla Cross can get. We have a leatherette through our armrest area. We have a soft touch plastic through here with a stitching detail. The upper part of the dash, this is always going to be a hard touch plastic. However, the more accessible areas on this top model have padding and stitching details, little piano black accent through there. And then as we move to our lower panel, we have a piano black accent and a little bit of silver that trims around this, giving it definition. Everything feels pretty solid inside of here. And we'll fire it up with the push button start on all but the L. And with the vehicle fired up, let's dig into some individual details. We'll start with one of the improvements for 2026. What you're looking at is a brand new 12.3-inch digital gauge cluster. Again, like a lot of elements, this is something that's basically brought down from the big brother RAV4 and gives you a more premium touch when you choose the X trims. Also, Toyota's eliminated the base gauge cluster and placed it with the previous high-end 7-inch display. Now, as we move back to the steering wheel, we have the leatherette wrapping on this version. Of course, it's manual tilt and telescoping. One of the updates, though, is that XLE and XSE now have the weather package as standard equipment for 2026. So that means the steering wheel is heated. And let's turn over here and take a look at interior storage. We've got some updates here. First, though, the center console. Looking inside, it's not overly large, that's for sure. We don't have our donuts with us today in Sonoma, California, unfortunately. You'll have to wait until we get this back home in Kentucky for a full donut test. But I can go on and tell you guys that's not going to fit that many because it's pretty much the same as the Corolla sedan in terms of the size and depth of it. We also have a couple cup holders right there in front. And then this section right here is new for 2026. So you'll kind of notice that the arrangement here is kind of widening this out and giving you a little bit more flexibility with the space. So now in the front, you could fit two phones side by side. If you put your phone on the left-hand side, that will be a wireless phone charging pad on all but the S and L trims. Moving back to the shifter, we've got the nice chunky style design here. It does have the leather covered boot on your X trims. You can bump over here to the left if you want to shift through some simulated gear changes. Heading into reverse, we've got a standard backup camera on all models. We have active trajectory. As you can see, displays nice and large and resolution is pretty good for this segment. Parking sensors are on just the XLE and XSE trim levels. And then, of course, you have your electronic parking brake with brake hold located right behind that. And then you've got a series of buttons up there in front of the shifter as well. One of the most prominent ones is the fact that we have the heated seat button with low and high modes. That's standard on your X trims. And then that's the heated steering wheel button I was mentioning earlier. Now the Toyota Corolla has always had, in this generation, the same kind of climate control design. That's not changing for 2026. There's 3 different versions you can get. You get a manual climate on the base trim, middle trims get single zones, and the upper trims get the dual zone. Adjusting the temperature is nice and easy with those physical knobs and buttons. Nothing complicated to explain there. Now you might notice right here in this little section, we've got some new buttons here. With the display enhancement, and we'll talk about that in just a second, we actually, I guess, ran out of space for a volume knob, so now we have these volume buttons for the audio system when you have the larger display. So, with the audio systems themselves, 6-speaker is standard on all trim levels, and then you have a 9-speaker JBL, which is available on the X trims. Let's go ahead and give that a sample. So overall sound quality of this system is fine for the segment. Certainly has plenty of bass and fills up the cabin nicely. So if you're into music, you'll probably want to choose that upgrade over the standard 6-speaker sound system. I will say that I find the buttons to be a little bit fiddly compared to the previous knob, especially since you could see when I was holding down the volume down and up button, it takes a while to turn it up and down. All right, now let's get into that display. So I already kind of talked about this, but we got a brand new display. It's 10.5 inches. This is the new standard display on the XSE and the XLE for 2026. Now, the previous biggest display, which was 8 inches, that is now the standard display for all the rest of the trim levels. And as you can see, pretty nice in terms of the overall graphics and design. Right now I'm in Android Auto. Let me go ahead and jump back to Toyota's system itself. Inside, pretty easy to use as well. This has a built-in navigation system, and you can access some vehicle settings inside of there, including your energy flow for the hybrid model. Wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay are standard across all displays. As we move up top, we have a manual dimming mirror, but with a nice frameless design, and also HomeLink remotes are built into that. And then up here at the roof, I'll slide this back. This is our sunroof. It is an available option. As you can see, it's the standard size. It has a sunshade and a thing to keep the wind from buffeting inside.
Now let's talk about the rear seat area of the Corolla Cross. This is an SUV after all, so how big is it? Well, it's not huge, so I will just go ahead and tell you that. We're only looking at about 32 inches of legroom and about 39 inches of headroom. The headroom itself is actually pretty good. The legroom certainly is going to be where you're lacking quite a bit over bigger options like the Toyota RAV4, but for those of you that don't use your rear seat often, this would be a great choice. Now, of course, we brought along the official Car Confections ruler. The reason we do that is so we can get a knee room figure. We're looking at about 5 inches of additional knee room with the seat adjusted to Drew, who's 5'8". I'm 5'9" for reference. My feet can easily slide up underneath of the seat, so that's pretty nice. The seats back here are definitely a little bit on the firm side, but they're not horrible overall, and the seats themselves do not recline. Now, if we fold down the armrest, we have 2 cup holders inside. Do be aware you have to get an X trim to get the rear armrest, though. And then here in the center section, you have standard rear vents on all models, and then all but the base versions will get actually the 2 USB ports to keep things charged up in the rear. Now let's take a look at the door trim. We have a hard touch door trim pretty much from top to bottom. However, I am happy that they at least leatherette padded the armrest portion. There's a little bit of bottle storage up in front of that, but one thing that's kind of weird about this vehicle is that you don't have any like door storage. It's just the bottle storage up there in the front. Now let's talk about the cargo capacity as well. So you do have a power tailgate, which is something that some of the rivals don't include, but it is optional here on your higher end examples like this XSE. Now, what about the cargo capacity? 17 cubic feet behind the second row of seats. If I reach up here and fold the seats down, which I can do easily, they are 60-40 split. That's going to give us our maximum of 44 cubic feet in the Corolla Cross. It is worth noting that is the same between both the gas and hybrid variants. If you get front-wheel drive, you get slightly more cargo capacity, but they're very similar in terms of overall cargo numbers. And if you want to see how this compares in other categories, other than just cargo capacity, to its rivals, we'd encourage you to go to carconfections.com/vehicle rankings. On our website, we've looked at all these subcompact SUVs that you can buy, ranked them in categories that matter most to this this shopper things like cargo capacity, interior technology, luxury features offered, powertrain choices, reliability, resale value, as well as safety. So definitely, if you want to make an informed buying decision, that can be super useful in your purchasing decision. Now, back to the Corolla Cross, as far as features are concerned, we don't have a spare tire here on this hybrid version. And then let's get our cargo length, width, and height figures as well. Try and get this cargo cover out of the way. So from behind Drew's 5'8" seating position to the rear of the cargo area, we're looking at about 67 inches of cargo length. From behind the second row of seats, we're about 32 inches in length. As far as opening, 42 inches wide. As far as height, 28 inches tall. And then if we get our load-in height, that's coming in at 30 inches. And as far as cargo capacity compared to big rivals like the Honda HR-V, this will be actually quite a bit smaller in terms of overall cargo capacity.
All right, so let's get into some more details about the powertrains on this 2026 Corolla Cross. So like we mentioned earlier, this will be available in both a traditional gas powertrain and a hybrid powertrain, which, as you know, with the upcoming RAV4, which we will be driving soon, by the way, that's going to be hybrid exclusive. So if you want a gas option in a small Toyota crossover, this is going to be your choice. Well, what are the power figures? The 2-liter 4-cylinder engine is making 169 horsepower in the traditional gas-powered model. If you get the hybrid, which is what we have today, this is the 5th-gen hybrid system. It pairs a 2-liter 4-cylinder with the additional hybrid componentry, and that brings you up to 196 overall horsepower. Now, you have a CVT with your gas-powered option, an eCVT with the hybrid, and all-wheel drive will be standard on the hybrid versions, by the way, and is available on the gas options. In terms of your overall fuel economy, if you get the gas with front-wheel drive, you're going to be setting at 32 mpg combined. Choosing all-wheel drive will lower that by 2 to 30 combined. And then the hybrid with all-wheel drive, that's going to be your real winner. So that brings you up to 42 mpg combined. So those of you who can do the math there, that's a 12 mpg improvement over top of the regular version with all-wheel drive. And if you're comparing this to the HR-V, and I know a lot of you guys are, this is going to be a highlighted area because the HR-V does not offer a hybrid at all. Now, we look forward to taking this updated version out on the road very soon, but we cannot do it quite yet because we are under a driving impression embargo. That means you're gonna have to wait just a little while longer to the date you see down below. That's when we'll be taking this Corolla Cross out on the road, showing you the performance of it, talking about the ride quality, getting a sound level reading, and the whole 9 yards. But you'll have to wait just a little bit longer because out of respect for Toyota and of course our fellow journalists, we'll be waiting until then to share with you our driving impressions.
Now let's talk pricing. So we start at under $25,000 for the base L gas model, and then the hybrid starts at just under $29,000. Now this XSE is going to cost quite a bit more. $33,000 is your starting point, and like I said, there are quite a few options on this vehicle. So you'll notice that this is a fully loaded example. We have the 26 model, $33,000 base price. We add all those options in, as well as $1,450 destination. We're sitting at $37,449 as tested today, which does represent a pretty steep price point for this segment of vehicle. It's getting very close to that of a Toyota RAV4. Now, if you're looking to buy a Corolla Cross or any new vehicle, we'd encourage you to go to carconfections.com/newcarquotes. The reason you do that is because we have a tool on our website that will connect you with local car dealers in your area to get you the best price. It's also going to give you access to invoice pricing information, which is a great tool to use while dealer negotiating. If you'd like to take advantage of that, as well as things like our monthly payment tool, you can find a link to that down below, as well as a pinned comment at the top of this video. But buying a vehicle is about more than just the original MSRP, so let's dive into resale and reliability. First up, let's talk about resale value. As an economics graduate myself, we took the time to develop what we think is a good estimate for this Toyota Corolla Cross's potential resale value. We estimate that after 5 years and 60,000 miles, it'll be worth 64.5% of original MSRP, and after 10 years and 100,000 miles, or 120,000 miles, 41.4%. Now, it's worth noting those are really some of the very best resale value percentages in the entire auto industry. There's only one brand that is better, so that is very impressive, and also I think very important for a more affordable vehicle like this. It's going to retain a lot of its value, so you're not going to be paying a lot in depreciation to own this.
And another thing that Toyota really excels in is, of course, reliability. That's why we have the Combined Reliability Index, which takes into account several studies on reliability from trustworthy sources, combines them into a way that gives you a holistic picture. And when you factor all that in with the latest data, Toyota is sitting right at the top of the list.
Yeah, it is actually our #1 brand, and if you want to learn more about our resale values, our reliability, or our methodology, be sure to go to carconfections.com/resale and carconfections.com/reliability. Buying a new vehicle is a very big decision, so you want to make sure you're making a smart purchase, especially if you're cross-shopping between different vehicle brands. Now, when it comes to your warranty, you have a 3-year 36,000-mile basic warranty, a 5-year 60,000-mile powertrain warranty, and you do also get 2 years and 25,000 miles of complimentary maintenance. And guys, that wraps up our in-depth review of the heavily refreshed 2026 Toyota Corolla Cross. If you enjoyed watching this video or found it helpful in your purchasing decisions, which we hope you did, we'd really appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button down below. By subscribing, you're going to be a part of our Car Confections family. We have a lot of fun on this channel, and I promise you won't want to miss out. If you're already part of our family, thank you so much for your continued support, and we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.